Hey there, Flute 360er. Welcome to the Flute 360 podcast, and thank you for tuning in yet again. Today's talk is a bonus episode with the one and only Mark Sparks. So Mark and I met way back in 2012 when I was the president of the Texas Flute Society, and he was one of the guest artists. Since then, we have cultivated a meaningful relationship over time, and he was in the area giving a recital and a masterclass at UNT in Denton, Texas. So I couldn't miss the opportunity to sit down with him yet again and pick his brain, because a lot has changed for him and in his life these past few years since the last time we talked. If you want to check out a past conversation with me and Mark Sparks, check out his episode, which is episode 51, and we talk about his flute publications. I hope you enjoyed today's bonus episode, which is being released on a Thursday, 3/23/23, and that's a little different for this show. The reason I'm doing this is because today is Flute 360's 5th year anniversary. I have learned a lot from you over the course of these past 5 years, and I thank you for your support. If you want to be in the know of recent and upcoming flute events, flute subscriptions through Flute 360, you definitely want to do two things. One, you want to subscribe to the Flute 360 newsletter, and you can do that through my website at HeidiKBigay.com. If you want to also receive extra support and news and updates, you want to join our Flute 360 family private group via Facebook. All you have to do is click the link below, and we would love to see you there. Enjoy the conversation. I think we're going to go ahead and get started because everybody's here. My name is Heidi Bigay, and I see a lot of familiar faces, which is really exciting. So if you haven't heard, I'm actually the creator and host of the Flute 360 podcast. And this week, which is really, really exciting, this week is my 5th year anniversary on Thursday, 3/23/23. Thank you. And I can't think of a better way to celebrate with all of you wonderful flutists and my dear friend Mark, because Flute 360 has seen quite a journey along the way. And if you're interested in the show and interested in the topics and my guests who've appeared in close to 250 episodes, you can go to HeidiKBigay.com. All my episodes are there. Also, wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music. I sound like one of those ads for podcasts, don't I? Wherever you get your podcast, download here. But Amazon, Spotify, Apple, feel free to follow and share with your flute friends. I would really appreciate the support. The content is completely free. And the reason why it's called Flute 360 is because everything's connected. And so when I talk with wonderful guests like Mark Sparks, we talk about topics to serve you in this modern day climate. And we're looking at not just the flutist from the artistic side of things, but also the business side or the career go-getter side of things, and also the human side of things, because it's really, important for us to take care of our mind, our body, and things like that. So if you ever have a topic suggestion, feel free to go to my website and contact me. I promise I do not bite. You can say, hey, Heidi, I want to hear more about da-da-da, and I would love to hear your suggestions. So another reason why this is so great for me to be here and celebrate all of these new achievements and things like that is because most of you will not know this, and that's okay. Mark and I actually were introduced 11 years ago when I was president of the Texas Flute Society. He was one of the guest artists for the 35th annual event. It was him, Carol Winsence, and David G. Weiss. Yeah. And the Myrna Brown winner was Shauna Thompson. Right. So I've known Mark now for 11 plus years, yeah. And I can't believe that we're actually here at UNT again 11 years later. And then Mark was actually featured in episode 51 when I got to pick his brain about his recently published books. So as you guys know, he has volumes with his tone books and his orchestral excerpt books, and you can check that out through Carolyn Nussbaum's Flute Shop in Plano. She has that collection there. And we talked about, your publications, and we talked about what you learned during that time. And now I get to pick his brain yet again. You look like deer in headlights. Don't worry, I'm not gonna. He's like, whoo. But yeah, a lot has changed, since then. And I was thinking this morning, driving over here to Denton, what would I like to ask Mark? And since he was featured in episode 51, we are coming close to episode 250. So I talked with you over 200 episodes ago. And I'm curious because I would love to know, what your life is like now. Because when we talked last, about 4 years ago, principal flutist of St. Louis Symphony Orchestra, DePaul, and a lot has changed. So can you bring us up to speed of what these last 4 years have looked like and all of that?
Yeah, thanks. I am in a different period of my life entirely than I was. Although, I still love music. I love teaching. I love thinking about flute and music as much as I ever did in my whole career. And I suppose in some ways more than I did. But it's a different period. I mean, I spent almost 40 years playing professionally in orchestras all over. And, I think the pandemic, for me, allowed me to sort of get off the train, like a lot of people, and just think about stage of life and, complex issues like identity, like when we're musicians, our identity kind of gets entangled with the music and our instrument. And if you end up doing the performance professionally, it gets a lot more than that. And if you try to, continue as an orchestral player, if you try to continue your career in other directions, as a soloist, a chamber music player, performer at different venues, and especially as a teacher, then it becomes sort of all-consuming and becomes sort of every single day is spent just completely in this environment. And the music, for me, has always been what rules. It's the reason I did it. I didn't do it because of flute. I love to play the flute very much as I ever have. But for me, it's always been about the great repertoire that we have and new repertoire and stuff like that. And I suppose during the pandemic, I kind of reached this point, the apex of these thoughts that I had been having for a while. Like, is there anything else for me? I've pretty much fulfilled so many of my dreams. And not that I would not want to just keep going, but the question was more, I just turned 60, and who am I? And who do I want to be, in these coming years that I have, My father died when he was 79, and he was healthy his whole life, very productive, positive man, brilliant person, great father, very healthy, strong person. And he died quickly. at 79, it surprised me. It shocked me. And it kind of woke me up and realized how finite this is, how short our time is, and how much of life is out there beyond music, you know. And I wanted to try to see beyond music, keep the music in my life, you know, but in the way that I wanted it and in the amount I wanted it.
Okay.
And so the ultimate decision was actually quite painful, which is to give up a job that most people would never, ever give up once they have it, because it's so great. And I did come to that realization that is what I was going to have to do, you know, to answer the question. And it was hard, but I'm happy. I'm very happy that I did it. And, you know, my wife is younger than I am, and I want my time with her. And so we decided to fulfill a dream we had both had for a long time. Look, someday let's move to the mountains, you know, let's get in nature and, you know, out of the daily grind of do it, push. And so we did. Just uprooted and we went to Colorado. And so now we live in Boulder, and we're having a total blast. It's pretty relaxing overall. I mean, I get to run around and do some fun things like this and see you guys and hear you play and share music with you, and that's what I want right now. That's what I really want to do. So I guess that's sort of the long answer, I mean, of where I'm at.
No, it's a great answer. And it sounds like you're really happy and very fulfilled, because even as you're talking with our flute friends and then you come back and make eye contact with me, I see a twinkle in your eye. And you seem really satisfied, and I'm so happy for you. Yeah,
well, I mean, look, I've had everything. I mean, it was my life's dream to play principal flute in a great orchestra. And I got to do that. I got to do that for a long time. And it was fantastic, and I treasure the memories of that. And sometimes I miss the music, but you know, I still play at Aspen in orchestra in the summers, and that's kind of more fun now than it was. Not that I was burned out, but you know, it just became a year-round treadmill in orchestra, just every week, all the time, and no way really to get away from it, you know. And so yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's an amazing thing to feel like you have done what you wanted to do, and then what's next, you know? And it's really exciting, you know. And so. Yeah, I am. I'm very in a good place. Very, very happy. Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. So you said, you know, and I'm sure like different seasons in your career, St. Louis and Aspen and things like that, you probably, just because playing and teaching was just around the clock for you, there were probably worse seasons where you felt on the verge of burnout. And now that you decided, I'm going to retire, right, move to the mountains with your lovely wife.
Yeah.
I bet in some way, and I don't want to assume because assumption can be dangerous, but I assume that because now you are in the mountains and you're kind of off of that clock and off of that schedule, how has that influenced your music making? Being more free, having more time?
You know, the burnout thing was something I always wondered about. And I remember one of my students said to me once, like, I've known you for like 30 years, and you've been doing this just more and more and more the whole time, and I don't understand why you're not burned out. And I said, well, I don't really know. I guess I don't know what that is, really. So I don't really understand that. Is that when you get tired of it, I guess, or something? And then I just kept wondering, why am I not burned out? Like, I don't know. I don't know why I never burned out. I never did.
Okay.
I just decided to back off orchestra, you know, and I do miss playing some of the pieces, of course. I miss some of my colleagues very much, and so on. But I think that's part of it, you know, when you make a life decision, then part of you always gets left behind, you know, and it tugs at you, and that's just part of determining your future, taking control of your future and saying, this is what I want. And yes, there is part of me that will always be there, you know, and love it where I was, you know, or, you know, in some cases, maybe not love it where you were and you decide to change it, you know, and that can be a hard thing too, you know. Yeah. And freedom, you know, it's you always think, you know, in our culture, we think that there's really over the rainbow someday for me. It's going to be what I want, you know, I mean, it's not what I want right now, but someday it's going to be. And I think we have this idea in our country. I haven't found it so much in other cultures. But there's this sort of idea of dreaming and really controlling your future, controlling the outcome, and making it the way you want to be, being where you want to be and with the people you want to be with, and that we're all going to do that sometime, you know, and we're not doing it now, but we're going to do it eventually, you know. And I think it's good. I think you have to keep dreaming and trying to get where you want to be. It's a struggle, but I think there's a responsibility that comes with it, which is that when you get what you want, will you recognize it? Or is your dream, does it not match that reality? And when you find that reality, will it be perfect? And the answer is no, it won't. It won't be perfect. It will be mixed, just like it is now. It will be the same. But there may be important circumstances which you have brought into your life, which make you very happy on a fundamental level, and that's the name of the game. And so I think that's the whole thing about achieving your dreams, feeling free and doing new things and stuff like that. Well, I digress.
No, it's a good digression. No, that's amazing. And just seeing you share your wisdom and your story with this fine audience, and I'm thinking about the demographic here of this audience, undergrads, masters, doctoral students. If, you know, thinking of young Mark sitting in the audience chair.
We don't want to think about that.
No. You know, you've had such a successful career for 40 plus years.
Yeah.
If young Mark was in the audience right now, just like where these young folks are, what would you tell them?
Oh boy. I mean,
Everything you just said.
I don't know. I was so arrogant as a young flutist, and I didn't want to accept anything that anyone said to me as the truth. And anyone who tried to tell me what was great for them, I always took the negative side and said, well, that's great for you, but it's not great for me because I'm going to do this the way I want to do it. And so, yeah, I was just so dumb, like so hard-headed, you know, and just arrogant, I think. And it took quite a bit of life experience to kick that out of me, and to realize that that's pointless.
Okay.
You know, and there's so much more to life if you stop judging, you know. And so I don't know, I probably would have been sulking in the back or looking kind of mean at the person, like, or something. It would have been terrible. Yeah. I'm so glad I'm not that person anymore.
Well, we appreciate your honesty and vulnerability. Do you mind being extra vulnerable and
no, I don't.
Okay, perfect.
No.
Yes, well.
I'm totally here. Like,
okay.
Yeah.
No, like with
Warts
like what you with what you said about like what I want you to be vulnerable with is you said like you're hard-headed, you're stubborn, and there are some life experiences that kind of kick that out of you. Was there like a slew, like a line of different life events that kind of slowly, you know, shaped you into the man you are? Or was there a particular event where you're like, oh man, and you pivoted and that stubbornness, or maybe not stubbornness, but like hard-headedness started to wither away?
There were a lot of experiences. I mean, some of them were not pleasant. Some of them had to do with like personal relationships and people that I knew, and the way relationships ended. It made me look at myself often, and that wasn't easy to do. And I realized, you know, in my 20s, I realized that I really had a long ways to go in terms of learning who I am and how I want the world to be, how I want to be with others. And, you know, it took some therapy and just some not so great experiences. But I guess the story I like to tell is with my teacher, Willoughby. And so I went to Oberlin. I always wanted to go to Juilliard. And I kept playing for Baker, and he never accepted me. And by the way, I just had an amazing encounter with Linda Mark, who knew Baker all those years. And we played a concert together, and we just got to talking. And we always come around to this topic where I say, yeah, Baker never liked me. I just couldn't get him to like my playing, And I don't know why he never liked my playing, but it hurt me so badly, at the time. Because I was so ambitious, just so driven, and I never knew what it was that he didn't like, And Linda looked at me and she said, Baker talked to me about you on a number of occasions. And he never once mentioned that he didn't like you or your playing. And I thought that was very interesting. It was kind of life-changing for me. I've spent 40 years wondering why Baker wouldn't accept me, But anyway, I went to Oberlin and I studied with Willoughby. And for me, it felt a little bit like that was my second choice or whatever. And I just didn't know how great Willoughby was. I couldn't recognize it because I had never encountered a teacher of that level of greatness. I didn't even know about it, like what he was doing, And after my first year, he sat me down and he said, it was our last lesson of my freshman year, and he said, I've noticed that you don't like what I'm teaching you. And I've noticed that you are resistant to doing the things I want you to do. And I was embarrassed because I thought maybe I was covering it up pretty well, but I guess at that age I couldn't cover up anything very well. But and he said, what I really want to do is kick you out of here now, because I feel like it may not work and it may not be the right place for you. And I was like, oh, really? And he was like, yeah. But he said, instead of do that, we're going to do something else. And he got out his recorder, and he said, first I want you to play the piece the way you want to play it, with all the things you really want to do, just as best as you can, and we'll listen to it. So we listened to it, and he said, now, I want you to try to do all the things in the piece that I have asked you to do. And I said, okay, I will do them. I will do the things you asked me to do. And so we did that, and we listened to that. And he said, now, which one do you like better? And I thought for a second, and I thought, it's definitely the one where I did what you wanted me to do. And from then on, it was great. It was a phenomenal education. And after that, I was very, very loyal to him after that experience. And so, but that kind of, the message was, look, I'm going to make you step outside of yourself here and look at what you are doing. And I want you to honestly, in front of me now, I want you to tell me whether you think what you are doing is better than something else that somebody else wants you to do because, they think you need to change. And the answer was, I need to change. And so from then on, I thought, well, maybe I am just hard-headed and arrogant, and I really ought to start listening to other people, and maybe they do have something valuable for me to learn, And so that was just that was kind of a crucial, because he saved my career. And it was just kind of a crucial thing. And I still remember that lesson now as a teacher, and that what kind of patience that must have required, and lack of ego on his part to be able to do that, because the easy thing to do if you're not happy with a student, the easy thing to do is just try to get rid of them, or give them a bad grade, or don't discuss it with them, or what I mean, you don't want I think it's difficult to really talk to a student. Where are you at? This is where I am. Where are you? And let's try to understand each other. Let's try to make it work.
And bridge that gap.
Yeah, right. So that's what he did. So it taught me a valuable lesson.
Yeah. What a great mentor. And for him to show you that grace and patience, and you can pay it forward to your students. And
yeah, I've tried.
Yeah.
I can never be the teacher that Willoughby was, but I've tried to do well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think teaching is really hard.
Yeah.
Don't you?
It is, yeah. Like what you said too.
Do you guys teach? Any of you teach?
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't it hard? Yeah. It's really hard. You have to try to understand where someone is coming from. And then you have to look at yourself. And where am I coming from, actually, exactly, and, how can I get through? How can we meet, and it's hard. It's a hard thing.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially because each individual student has their own, brings their own baggage, perhaps to the lesson, and has a different journey and different personalities. And then, like you said, you have to meet them where they're at, and then bridge that gap so that way they are their best self. And you can really pull out, the artistry and
I think you can eventually. Sometimes at the beginning it's hard, and as an experienced teacher, you kind of want to be the lord of the land and just boss them. And just tell them what to do because you know better. And a lot of times they do it because they think that you do know better, And that isn't the communication either. I think. You you can sort of teach the students the same thing. Every student, the same things, without ever really thinking about exactly where are they coming from. If they have the way that they are doing things, that there is a pre-existing reason for that they are bringing with them.
Sure.
And then I think, if you kind of get past that dynamic, where I'm the great teacher, you're the student who knows nothing, everything you do is wrong, and I'm going to tell you how to do it right. Like, I think at some point you have to get past that with the student, and then real growth can happen in amazing ways.
Oh, yeah.
I think, but that's hard to do. It's hard to do day in, day out, if you're teaching a lot, because if you teach a lot, some of you, maybe you teach a lot, and you get glazed over, right? You just start to get snowplowed, and you get tired, and you don't have patience, and it's very, very difficult, I think, to do that, to be a good teacher.
I think that topic in of itself could be like a whole nother episode, right? So stick around for part 2 for later, because I want to kind of pick your brain on that a little bit more. But yeah, you've given us a lot of great things to think about, and thank you so much for your honesty and sharing your expertise. And it's great to hear where you are in life now, and I'm so happy for you.
Thank you very much. It was a real pleasure.
Yeah. Well, I think it's time for the masterclass, and I don't know when this episode will air, but I will let it be known. I think it's going to be let's do this. Bonus episode this Thursday gets released for the 5th year anniversary. We'll do that. Yay.
All right.
Well, thank you, Mark.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's talk, and I really hope that the conversation has served you well. Friendly reminder, you want to sign up to the Flute 360's newsletter at HeidiKBK.com, and you want to join our private Flute 360 family Facebook group. All you have to do is click the links below, and it's easy peasy. And speaking of events and things to invite you to, there is an upcoming Ian Clark workshop, masterclass, and concert on Saturday, April 1st, 2023. All you have to do is go to fluteforyou.com, purchase your workshop, masterclass, and or concert tickets, and we would love to see you there. Now, please note that at this time, there is no virtual option. So if you are in the Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Tennessee, New Mexico area, and it is feasible for you to travel to Dallas, Texas, we would be so glad to see you. Let me know if you decide to come, and hit me up through an email at HeidiKBK@gmail.com so I can look forward to seeing you soon. This is being sponsored through the Carolyn Nussbaum Music Company's Flute Shop. So feel free to check out her website at fluteforyou.com for this event and all of your flute goodies. Great, thank you. Have a good day. Are you a flutist frustrated that your instrument doesn't accurately represent your artistic voice? We hear you. Not owning an instrument that will showcase your musical abilities and let your creative voice shine through can be frustrating. Let us help you change that. At the Carolyn Nussbaum Music Company, we have a team of flute specialists who have been working in the industry for decades, and they have the knowledge and the skill to help you find your dream instrument. They have a wide selection of piccolos, flutes, low flutes, and head joints to match your creative needs. To help you find your perfect instrument, call the Flute Shop at 972-985-2662 to schedule your flute trial today, or visit their website at fluteforyou.com. where you can check out their instrument selection online. Follow the Flute Store through Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or Twitter for the latest news and updates. The Carolyn Nesbaum Music Company is truly your one-stop flute shop. Let's talk about flute.